Hi there, my name's Jack, and I will be taking you through dLive version 2.1 over the next sort of few minutes. Welcome everyone. Let's see how we're doing, if we've got people coming in, and tell me, have any of you downloaded 2.1? Has anyone already done a gig on it? Say all the things. Tell me all the things. Let's see. I would love to know who's in the chat with me. There it is. So yeah, do pop in the comments if you've already mixed on 2.1. Do let me know that you're here. Do let me know that it's all coming through okay. We're going to be going through all of the major features in dLive 2.1. Including rhythm delay, CompStortion, group-to-group mixing, unmute from mute group, updates to actions, and a couple of other things besides. If there's anything that anyone is particularly interested in, please do put it in the chat and we will do our best to answer it. We are going to be predominantly focusing on new features in 2.1. This isn't really going to be a Q&A for all the different things that we do. I've done the first two messages I've got through are for the QU and the CQ12. Nice. So if you've got any questions on dLive 1.2, please do put them in the chat, and we would be very happy to answer them. Les Luxembourg says, good morning from Hawaii. Good morning to you too. We'll give it a moment for everyone to finish connecting, and then we will jump into a little bit of a demo, a little bit of a chat, a little bit of a conversation about the different things in dLive 2.1. But yeah, if anyone has already had the chance to mix on it, get it installed and get out on it and do a show, please let us know. Be really interested. I think it's probably time to jump straight into having a look at some of the features. And the first thing we're going to have a look at is rhythm delay. So let's get this up. So rhythm delay looks a little bit like this. Rhythm delay is a Rack Ultra Effects unit. So this will work on any dLive fitted with the Rack Ultra Effects card. And it takes one of the 8 Rack Ultra Effects slots. And if I come out of this and go into this, we've got 2 different modes that the rhythm delay runs in. We have simple. This is where we can just set, key features that are required to get up and running, such as the rhythm, the shape, the feedback, that sort of thing. And we also have advanced, where we can delve right into exactly where we want to place individual repeats. Let's see if I can get a little bit of audio running so we can hear what it sounds like. Going to put this into a reasonably simple mode so we can have a little listen. Going down. Perfect. Right. So go ahead and listen to some audio. This is piano and vocal.
Tells it that it met a girl.
And in a second, I'm going to send some of that vocal to the delay.
The gourd is an artist.
And what we've got there is just a simple 1/8 interval for repeats.
Solitary is the voice that speaks out into darkness.
Probably a little loud. So what does that look like in the back? Well, we've got 4 individual repeats, and they're all placed in the first half of the bar. And we can go and place these wherever we want. We can do whatever we like with it. We can also change the amount of feedback going into our feedback loop. So if I play that audio again, but this time I'm going to start making changes to the delay in front of you on the screen. So let's get rid of them all to start with.
Tells it that it met a girl, that convinces it the gourd is an artist.
And I could do something a bit more interesting.
Solitary is the voice that speaks out into darkness.
And so you could build up patterns, however you want to build up a pattern. You can even tap something in.
That convinces it the gourd is an artist.
I'll just let that go through again.
Solitary is the voice that speaks out into darkness.
That was quite a boring one. Let's add some more things.
Tells it that convinces
Now, you can do quite complicated things. I've made some presets for myself here. One with like quite a simple quarter and third repeat, but using the feedback filter and a very high amount of drive to give like a really sort of wishy-washy, vibey reverb delay.
Speaks out into darkness. Tells it that it met a girl that convinces it the gourd is an artist. So,
and then we can do things like, if I load my other preset where I've got lots and lots of repeats very early on in the bar.
Tells it that it met a girl that convinces it the gourd is an artist.
So using rhythm delay, we can build really, really complex delays, not sort of, your classic, maybe just time-based delays, but things that are actually conscious of where those repeats are coming in the bar. The level of them. We can also do things like pan individual repeats left and right to create complex sort of ping pong effects. So rhythm delay is really, really exciting. It's something that is available for users with the Rack Ultra Effects card. It's definitely an advanced feature. It's something for users that really want to get, down and dirty into individual repeat times, individual repeat levels, individual repeat pan settings, to build repeats that come precisely when you want them. But more importantly, it's about being able to not have repeats exactly when you want them. So rhythm delay, super cool, available for Rack Ultra Effects users. If anyone's got any questions about Rack Ultra Effects, if anyone's got any questions about rhythm delay, do pop them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll probably move on to our next big feature. So our next big feature is CompStortion. I'm going to go ahead and grab a channel here. We'll have a quick look at that too. So CompStortion is a deep compressor unit. So any deep processing unit, that's something that runs in the channel with no additional latency. All that latency is already compensated for and looked after within the channel strip. And it's available for all dLive users. CompStortion is an emulation of a classic, extremely flexible studio compressor. It's a feedback compressor, which means that the output of the compressor also kind of affects the input and affects attack and release times. Everything you see on the screen here kind of affects all parameters at the same time. It's been a very, very, very complex unit to model. The R&D team have been working on it for a very long time, and they've done an incredible job of making this as good as it could be, and as good as they have. So CompStortion, you may recognize it. It's obviously heavily influenced by a piece of studio hardware. We've also got some additional tweaks all of our own. So in the distortion section, we've got 4 modes of distortion, where other versions of this may only have 2. So A and C, emulating certain classic distortion models available on these kind of compressors. B and D, offering further distortion available at the same level of gain reduction. So if you want to create really, really like compressed drums with like really, really obvious and distorted transients to cut through a mix, well, you can go ahead and put it into distortion mode D for all of those extra sort of aggressive transients. The real sort of secret sauce of this compressor comes in the different ratios available. So although they might have quite simple names like 4:1, 6:1, etc., although we'll get to the 2 at the end in a minute, the ratios really affect, again, the entire sound, but also the entire behavior of the compressors, affecting not only the compression ratio, but also attack and release ballistics over and above the speed, but also the sort of shape of that ballistic as well. Most of these are fairly self-explanatory as to what they might be doing. As we get into the middle, we've got one that says opto above it. Now, 10:1 opto is designed to emulate the way an optical compressor behaves. We've also got attack and release settings specifically for it. As we get higher and higher, we've got Smash, which is designed to be essentially a brick wall limiter, and Brick Mode, which emulates a very common, very popular hardware mod that sounds a little bit like an 1176 all buttons in kind of effect. On the rest of the compressor, we've got the detector mode that allows us to, as it suggests, control what's going to the detector, to have it either maybe a little bit more sensitive to the human voice when it's in the bell curve mode, the bottom one, and the high pass filter just takes out some of the low end to stop it reacting to perhaps drums spilling down vocal mics, something like that. CompStortion is probably our most highly requested compressor that we've ever had. I think it's safe to say that. I think I can get away with saying that. So we're really excited for people to hear it, really excited for people to have a play with it. The rest of the compressor is pardon me. The rest of the compressor. Well, we've kind of talked about the whole thing, haven't we? We've got the detector section, we've got the distortion section. We've talked a little bit about the different ratios available and those classic big control knobs available at the bottom with input, attack, release, and output, which hopefully sort of are fairly self-explanatory. If anyone has any questions about CompStortion or indeed rhythm delay, feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll probably move on to one of our next features. So moving on from CompStortion, one of the next things that we've brought to dLive in version 2.1 is a big update to the way the action systems work. So the action system is available on the surface under Actions. And Actions allow you to automate certain functions available on the console. So we can automate lots and lots of different types of functions. We've got the existing actions that were predating. So if I add this as a test function, for instance, test, I go to add. We can see that we've got a number of actions available to us on the left-hand side. So on the left-hand side, we've got things like mute, assign, strip assigns, send levels, all these sort of things. There are some new features that you can already see on the screen. So we've got follow select available down there. Now, what follow select does is instead of performing the action on a channel that you've selected in the screen here, or maybe multiple screens, follow select will perform the action on whatever channel is currently selected by the mixer. So we can go ahead and apply that to, for instance, to a soft key, and it will toggle the mute of whatever channel we have selected. Now that on its own is perhaps not the most groundbreaking thing in the entire world, but we can use these new functions and new options within the existing functions to build quite complex workflows. We'll have a look at what some of the other functions are before we go too far into that though. So we've also got updates to the main and send level, where we have both absolute and relative mode on these send levels. And as we carry on further down, we can see a action for bookmarks. So when we run an action, we can now also recall a bookmark to bring the console to a specific screen. And within input and mix channel libraries, we can also recall a channel library either on predefined channels or on the currently selected channel. So let's have a look at a couple of examples of how we might use that. So one of the things that we've been looking at, if I come out of this and I go a little bit wider, is how we might create a button for an IEM spare. So it's quite common that if you've maybe got 4 people on stage, 4 people with IEMs, you might have a 5th IEM pack available as kind of like a hot spare, a hot takeover kind of IEM. So what I've set up here is a set spare action. So what do I need to do for a set spare action on such a matrix? Well, the first thing I need to do is make sure that none of the IEMs are already going to that matrix. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take those 4 IEM stereos and I'm going to create a set off action. So the first thing I'm doing is actually to unassign all of the IEMs. All of the IEMs. Sorry, someone's put it in the chat. Sorry, Jack, I'm late. What did I miss? Please recap everything. We probably won't go through everything, I must admit, but I'm happy to recap a little bit at the end of everything we've spoken about at a high level. So the first thing I've done is I've unassigned all of my IEMs from my spare matrix. The second thing I'm going to do is make sure that all of the IEMs are being sent at exactly unity, at exactly 0 dB to my spare matrix. So I've got my stereo matrix set up here. I'm not in follow select, I'm not in follow mix. I've got absolute level set at 0 dB with my 4 IEMs. And then the last thing I'm going to do is assign whichever channel is currently, let's go to this matrix, whichever channel is currently mix active, I'm going to assign that to my spare matrix. So I'm going to make sure everything's unassigned. I'm going to make sure they're all being sent at 0 dB. And then finally, I'm going to make sure whatever is currently mix active is set to my spare. I'm going to set up a soft key to trigger this. So I'm going to use soft key 11 because you can see that nice and easily. I'm going to go to action recall, recall action set to spare, but I'm going to do it on soft key 11. Discard action recall. I'm going to go to set spare and press apply. So now, if we have a look on our bottom screen here, if I bring up the routing page for my spare matrix, I'm going to press mix on IEM2. And then I'm going to press my action key, which is number 11. And we'll see that my meter's gone up here. And also I can see that it's been assigned up here on the routing page. And equally, if I want to swap over and it's IEM4 that I want to set to my spare matrix, I can press mix on 4. Press 11, and you'll see that number 4 is now being sent to my matrix. So we can use these actions, we can use the new ability to either follow select or follow mix to build some quite complex actions. Really, really useful, I think, particularly for people doing sort of monitor engineering, where you do need to be able to automate large amounts of stuff and be able to react quickly to things happening on stage. But there's lots and lots of other use cases for these sort of things. So one of the things we were talking about, I was talking about someone last week, was the idea that if you're using it in a corporate environment, you might want to be able to quickly reset channels to perhaps an RF handheld mic preset. So you might have decided that your handheld mics all need quite an aggressive high pass because this is a corporate event, and they've all got a horrible sort of ring at 500, and you're going to try and get rid of all these plosives up here, and maybe you're going to have a emergency compressor in case someone suddenly starts shouting really loud down it. And so you've built up your channel library for your emergency handheld mic, something like that, or your corporate RF handheld mic. So I'm going to save this channel library by going to Overview, Library, Store New, call this RF handheld, apply. I'm now going to go into my actions. I'm going to create a new action called handheld set. And in here, I'm going to go to my input channel library. I want to recall my handheld. I don't want to recall name and color, but I do want to recall everything else on the currently selected channel. I'm going to press apply. Again, I'm going to go to soft keys, this time on soft key 12, and do action recall handheld set. And let's go to the bank view. So we can see currently, hopefully, that channel 1 has got some stuff set in it. And now in theory, if I select channel 2 and press my soft key, I can reset those channels quickly to a specific channel library. So I've got a few questions coming in. So one of the questions is, does the update allow me to does the color of the soft key? Unfortunately, not at the moment. That's something we're definitely looking at. Questions on CompStortion and on rhythm delay. So rhythm delay requires the new Rack Ultra effects card. Rhythm delay is required for the Rack Ultra effects card. That will only run on the new hard Rack Ultra effects card, but CompStortion is available in the channel strip for all dLive users. Another question about, is channel library the only way to make EQ adjustments within action? At the current time, yes, it is, but you know, if there's good enough reason to do it, we can certainly look into alternative options for actions. So there's a few things there that I've shown regarding follow cell. But there are other things available in the actions that we talked about a little bit earlier. In addition to the individual functions available in actions in 2.1, we've also included new ways to trigger actions. So we have two different ways that we can trigger an action in addition to a soft key or on the screen. So previously in version 2, we could trigger it by pressing recall on the screen or on a soft key. Now we can trigger it in two more ways. We can embed an action in a scene. So you can add an action to a scene. When the scene is recalled, it will also recall the action. And we can also trigger an action with MIDI. So in this case, if we had something like a Stream Deck or perhaps QLab or some sort of external device connected via the Heath MIDI driver, we can go ahead and set a CC message. So we might do, I don't know, CC message 32. Oh, not that one. Apparently that one's being used for something. Let's go with 43. And control value 2. In this case, if we were to send that MIDI CC message to MIDI channel 12, because the console is currently on MIDI channel 12, handheld set would recall. Equally, we could recall set spare with a MIDI action or something like that. So you can build your own MIDI recall actions or your own MIDI recall workflow with external devices if you want to. If anyone's got any questions on actions, I'd be happy to take them. Otherwise, I will probably move on to the next item. Any questions on actions, or indeed rhythm delay or CompStortion at this point? Anything we've talked about so far, feel free to drop a question in the chat, and I'd be happy to do my best to answer it. If not, I will probably move on to our next feature in 2.1. All right, in which case I will move on. If any questions do come in, please don't save them all for the end. Please do ask them as you think of them and pop them in the chat. It's much, much easier for me. Let's have a look at unmute from mute group or mute override. So at the moment, what I've got down the bottom here are 5 different channels, and they're in 2 DCAs. So 2 of them are in the first DCA, second DCA even. So we can see these 2 are in DCA 2, and everything is in DCA 1. So we've got 2 that are in DCA 2, and everything in DCA 1. So one of the things we've been asked for a while is the ability to unmute something from a mute group, or something where we can like override any sort of extra mutes that are in place on the console. So for 2.1, what we can now do is press reset and press the mute button. And that will take that channel out of any mute groups that it is in, any DCA mutes, any way that that channel is muted. Even if it's the channel mute itself, if the channel mute's on, we press reset, and that channel mute will come off. This means that this channel is now unmuted, no matter what mute groups, no matter what DCA mutes it might have been affecting it before. We have a way of overriding those mutes. To reset, put it back into the mutes that it was in, we can press reset again on the console and then press the mute key, and that will pop it back into any DCA or mute group mutes. We can do it on multiple channels, and we can reset it either by pressing reset on the channels or by pressing reset on the mute groups that it has been in. Any scene recall will reset the mute group state, and any DCA or mute group mute or unmute will reset the DCA state. So if I take these 2 out again and I unmute and remute the DCA, you'll see that they get muted. So really, really handy, particularly if you're caught out by somebody suddenly walking up to a microphone and you just need it to be unmuted and you need it to be unmuted now. The other thing is if someone goes up to a microphone and you don't want to unmute the other things in the mute group, you just want to unmute that one thing, well, that's fine. You can press reset, you can press mute, and now just that one channel is unmuted without having to unmute absolutely everything in all of those mute groups. It's something that people have been asking for a little while. We're really pleased to have been able to bring it to dLive in 2.1. Not the most flashy feature in the entire world, but really useful, and certainly I think something a lot of people are going to be very happy with when they've had a chance to play with it. I will continue because I can't imagine people have got too many questions about mute group override. Oh, good. I like the fact that this is the one I'm getting the most traction in the chat on. I appreciate that. Let's have a look and see if there were any more questions. Can we expect to unlock CompStortion on SQ somewhere down the line? Not sure. We'd have to ask one of the SQ team. I'm sure they're looking into it. Someone says, what is the maximum action? There is a limit. Someone has told me it. I can't remember what it is. It's very high. I think it's a few hundred. I can get back to you if that's something you're particularly interested in, but it's deliberately set at more than would be reasonable. It's lots and lots and lots and lots. Smart workflow features should be appreciated, more appreciated than they are. I agree. Smart workflow features the way forward. Right, so let's have a look at one of the other extremely highly requested features that we've had for 2.1. For the longest time, we've been really careful about the phase relationship within our console and making sure that the user are able to make smart decisions and be really sort of informed about what's going on when you double bus things. We've spent a lot of time making sure that if you want to do parallel compression, that we give you an easy way to do that in a phase coherent way. Justin says, can you cover the new scene recall safe update? I totally can. We'll get to it a little bit further down the line. But yes, we will absolutely cover that. So we've decided after much thinking, much decisions, trying to work out the best ways to do it, that we will enable group-to-group mixing. So we can mix from one group to another just by pressing the mix key and assigning. So I'm going to start by adding this SIGGEN to my first group, and we can see that the LEDs have come on there. If I go to my second group, I can assign to it in the same way I would assign to any other bus. I'm going to press assign, I'm going to press the mix key on group 1, and I'm going to have a little warning that pops up here to say, hey, this is not automatically delay compensated. You need to be aware of this. I'm going to say, yes, I am aware of this. Now, there are two different delay values you need to think about when you're trying to align groups that are mixed to other groups. Adding each group essentially adds 8 samples of latency. There are ways of making it 4 samples depending on how you choose your group-to-group send settings, which we can have a little look at. I don't want to get too bogged down in detail on this stream, as it's supposed to be an overview, but 4 to 8 samples depending on what you're doing. The really easy way to keep everything aligned is just to make sure that everything goes to the same number of groups, even if you have groups that are just designed to take everything else in without doing any additional processing, just for the extra latency. So if we want to add group 3, we can do that by just assigning group 2 to group 3. We've got another warning here. I can actually turn this off by going to routing, going to my overlay menu, but I do have to have a group assigned first. And I can turn off that confirmation if I'm going to be doing a lot of this and I've decided that I know what I'm doing. And I can add to a 4th group even by going assign, and I've got a 4th one. We don't actually stop you. There's no sort of limit. So in theory, you could do 62 or 64, depending on how you set your console up, group to group to group to groups. Obviously, what I've done here is I've added an additional 8 samples per additional group. So the last group, if you like, doesn't have any additional latency because that's already taken care of within the dLive system. But each group you add before it adds another 8 samples or 4 samples. Where will the details be detailed? The details are already detailed in the reference guide. Will there be a way for the console to automatically add delay compensation to channels not routed through multiple groups? It's something we're going to look at. It's not something I can promise in this stream right now, but it's certainly something we are investigating. But group to group, really handy feature. It's already something that I've been experimenting with on some shows. For those who may be looking at this going, why is it you want to do that? Group to group super handy because you might want to have a drum group and something like a brass group and a BVs for backing vocals or something, and then put all of these things into, for instance, a band group that you might sidechain a compressor to that's got the lead vocal on, so your band ducks a little bit each time they sing, but you still want to process all of your drums together. You still want to process all your BVs together. Oh, sorry, someone just said, can you share some practical examples? That's kind of what I'm doing. Perhaps we'll have an entire stream just on group-to-group mixing and when you may or may not use it. Group-to-group mixing is something that can be very useful, can be overused. It's not something that everyone needs to put in every show, but there are times where you do want to have those additional sort of layers of grouping, layers of processing, so that you're able to process certain things together first before sending them to another bus, processing them together before sending them to another bus. Realistically, the main examples you'll come across are, as I've just said, people wanting to have a drum bus, like a BVs, maybe a vocal, maybe like a horns or a strings bus if you've got stringed instruments or brass in your band, and perhaps you then want to process all of that as one group, band group, before adding your lead vocals. You also have people who like to do things like process their kick in, their kick out together in a group, and then process their snare, top, and bottom together in a group before going to a drum bus. So there's lots and lots of options there. Could group to group in theory be expanded to any bus in the future? Possibly. I must admit, group to group, as far as I'm aware, is the only thing we've had much in the way of requests for. But if there are other buses that you want to mix to other buses, feel free to let us know, and it's something we could consider for future inclusion. So those are all the major features available in dLive 2.1. We've got CompStortion, we've got our rhythm delay, we've got action improvements, group to group mixing, and unmute from mute group. There are some other features, of course, that we can discuss. We've also included Shure SLX integration. So if you're already familiar with the RF integration available on dLive for Axion, QLX-D, ULX-D, Sennheiser 2050, 2000, G3 and G4 microphones, we've also got now added Shure SLX to the range of things that you can add. You can integrate and have the RF information straight in the channel strip. In fact, let's leave this on something a bit more interesting than just looking at that page. And Dustin has got exactly what I was going to come to next, which is the 1176 rubber band mode or gain link. If we go to 1176, I got a gain link. We now have the ability to link together both the input and the output controls, so you're able to maintain a relative level whilst essentially changing the amount of compression whilst maintaining the same relative level. We've got a lovely animation of a rubber band there on the screen. Some other questions available. Only the best consoles do state integration. Will older consoles 2.0 show file be work in the new version? Yeah, absolutely. So all show files work in a forward direction. So you can load a 1.4 show file on 2.1. You can load a someone's saying there's no audio on this feed. Just let me know if the audio's dropped out, but I don't think it has. Will the older version 2.0 show files work? Yes, they absolutely will. So any show file works in a forward direction. So you can take any old version show file and run it on a newer console, whether that's 2.0 on 2.1, etc. We have some other features that are also perhaps not, headline features, but other things to look at. It includes what Justin was requesting, which is the scene safe overview. So what we can do, if we go to our bank view, have a look at our bank view, I can press and hold my scenes button, my safes button here, and I can touch an individual component. Let's zoom in a little bit more. I can touch an individual component on the screen to add it to my global save. So this is something that we added to Avantis because it's got such a big screen. It was an obvious choice for that console, and after it worked really well on Avantis, we decided that we were also going to do it for dLive. So by pressing the Safes key on the surface itself, we can touch any of the overlay and save it from there. Will the Mixpad app work? Do we need to wait for an update for that? No, so the Mixpad app update is out right now, and it's available to download and it's available to use with the console. So those are all the features. We did ask for a quick overview, so we've talked a little bit about the rhythm delay, which is available in the effects window. So the rhythm delay is available for Rack Ultra Effects units, Rack Ultra Effects users, and you can go ahead and load that up if you've got a Rack Ultra Effects card fitted to your mix rack. The Rack Ultra Effects card is available for all dLive, so any dLive that's ever been made, so any dLive mix rack that is, you can go ahead and you can fit a Rack Ultra Effects card to it if you want to. The Rack Ultra Effects card comes with additional processing that the Rack Ultra Effects card comes with additional processing that was not available in the mix rack when we launched it. Can we have a button where we can clear all the inserts in the next version? You can already do that. You can already do that. So we can go ahead and go to Surface, go to Actions, and we can go to add a new action. We can call this Uninsert. Press Add New and go to Processing. Go to Set Off and go to the insert that we want to set off, and you can choose the channels by either all of them or just a few of them. Real quick, back to actions. Any possibility of setting a fade time for a particular action? It's certainly something that's come up before as a request, but not something that we are planning to do at the moment. Or not something that we've got available in this release. Well, if no one else has got any further questions, that's probably where we're going to leave it for today. But thank you for joining. This is dLive 2.1 with the new features available in dLive 2.1. If you've got any questions at all that have not been answered in this stream, feel free to drop us a message. You can contact us on the support team by going to support.alan-heath.com or by emailing support@alan-heath.com or reaching out to your local distributor. So thank you for joining. Any other questions, please direct them to the support team. Douglas asks, Jack, I can't hear the audio, but I want to know if Alan has a digest of which digital mixers can use deep EFX. Yeah, I think that's probably best to direct at the support team. All of our sort of newer digital consoles have some kind of deep processing available in them, but exactly which ones use which is something that we'd need to discuss and work out what exactly it is you were interested in. So thanks ever so much for joining. Hopefully I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.